You could say I live in the middle of nowhere. Well, I prefer to call it the middle of the wilderness, though. And after living alone out here long enough, I thought I would be familiar with the land out here, even more comfortable. But I never have gotten comfortable. Maybe used to this place, but never comfortable. Pretty sure I can hold my own out here for the time being. But even so, lots of weird shit happens out here. I had to finally have a way to tell strangers who probably won't judge me or call me crazy. Back to the topic at hand. Weird stuff. See, I'll start with the first odd experience I had here. When I first purchased this land, I was really excited. There was already a house on the property that was the perfect size for me. Not only that, but it seemed pretty new. The former owners didn't stay around very long. And yeah, red flags here and there, but how was I supposed to know how messed up this place was? Anyway, I moved in without any issue, and within a week, I'm out on some trail that was already there, looking for deer tracks and some other game trails. And I'm actually having a pretty relaxing time until I swear I hear a baby say, "Mama," in the most stereotypical voice I've ever heard off in the distance. And now, like I said, I'm here in the middle of nowhere, so there shouldn't be anyone for miles. I just shook it off as me hearing things. 20 minutes later, I hear the same voice again saying, "Mama." Only this time it's maybe 40 yards away on the other side of some trees or brush. It didn't even sound like a real baby. It sounded like some disturbed dude. Of course, by this point, he's definitely on my property as well. So I start making my way through the undergrowth. Then when I'm sure I'm about to hit where he and the brush clears out to a clearing, and I finally get a glimpse of the man. He was butt naked, halfway behind a tree, flaunting a huge smile, while his eyes stayed kinda squinty. He was also pretty skinny, as I could see his ribs. Now usually you hear people say that at this moment my blood ran cold, but honestly mine didn't. I was looking at some butt-naked crackhead trespassing on my property. He decided to let out another mama during silence, while I was trying to figure out my next move, so I promptly responded with a hearty, "What the actual fuck are you doing?" That's when he decided my next move for me. He started running at me, and I might have run away if he hadn't been so scrawny, so when he reached me with that big smile and looked like he was about to grab me, I punched him in the throat. It was a good punch. I was proud of it, honestly. It would have kept any normal man on the ground for at least a minute. That's when I got the first hint that this wasn't a normal man. While I was standing there, proud of my Mike Tyson level haymaker, the guy immediately got back to his feet, and before I had time to hit him again, he dive tackled me to the ground, and it hurt pretty bad. He somehow pinned my shoulders to the ground, and no matter how hard I kicked and punched him, he wouldn't let up, so I was forced to use Plan B. I pulled out my trusty Bear Grylls survival knife, stabbed him in the gut twice. Now this finally got his attention. He hopped back to his feet, slinging blood all over me in the process. I got back to my feet, knife in hand, and waited for him to do something else. All he did, though, was stick a finger in his wound and lick the blood off. Then cartwheel into the woods, crying like an actual newborn baby this time. Now, by this point, I was pretty on edge. And right as he got far enough away that I could no longer hear him, I turned and I walked home. I know I should have run, but running through the woods is so tiring. I just didn't feel like it. When I got home, all was normal again, at least for a while. Another story that comes to mind when I think about odd things happening around this area is the event that led me to no longer camp in my woods. By the time that the event in this story took place, I had already experienced quite a few things on this property, and this was easily the third freakiest thing to happen up to this point, right behind the naked stab victim that cried like a newborn baby and cartwheeled into the woods. This time I had decided that I wanted to go camping, and despite all the stuff that had happened, I'd never been seriously injured in those woods, so why not go sleep in them, right? Bad choice, I know. Anyway, the first few hours while I got into the woods were fine. I set up camp, built a fire, burned myself trying to cook a hot dog, piss on the fire that burnt me. Then I started to realize that camping is pretty boring when you're alone. So I decided to go to sleep. Next thing I know, I wake up to the sound of a young girl's voice down in the creek. Sounds like she's college type age. She's saying, "Help, I need some help down here. I'm lost, Dad, help." Again, I can hear her down in the creek from my tent. Now, this isn't the first time that I've been lured into the woods by a voice pleading for help, but this voice was a lot more convincing than the others. Nonetheless, I still brought my newly purchased handgun that I had bought for dealing with things on the land. Well, I made my way to the creek, flashlight in hand, and headed down to the voice. Soon I find the source. I didn't put the flashlight beam on her right away because I didn't want to blind her, but I could clearly see the outline of a small girl sitting on the bank of the creek. I got about 15 feet away and she stopped me, stating that you really don't need that flashlight with the moon out like this. It wasn't even close to a full moon, so that confused me a little. I replied with, "I don't know about you, but I can't see a thing out here. Let me help you though, you hurt?" Then I started to shine the flashlight on her, but she screamed, "Stop!" before I could get to her face. This time her voice wasn't convincing, and I could tell she wasn't human. What you guys need to realize is that I'm not a badass. I'm not trying to sound cool or tough, but ever since something happened 3 years ago, the same event that caused me to move out here, I don't respond to situations the same anymore. Maybe I'm not scared of death anymore, and maybe I'm not mentally stable. But maybe I'm weird. But when I established that this thing wasn't human, I started to smile. It fooled me. It got me into the woods in its domain and was probably going to make an attempt at my life, but I might as well piss it off a little, so I flicked my flashlight up and I revealed its face. It actually was a girl. Sort of. She was super pale and had abnormally large eyes. They were completely black when the light hit her face. Her head snapped forward and made eye contact with me, and her jaw dropped open 3 times longer than any human could have, and she screamed. It was loud. Like an inhuman loud. It sounded like a girl's scream, but as if it was being played through massive speakers to make it ear-splitting. And then I felt something closing around my neck. She hadn't moved, but something was somehow choking me. She's still screaming. I've realized while living here that the entities that can hurt you can also get hurt themselves. Now, most of them are tough as nails, but they can be hurt. This memory went through my head just as I felt something warm dripping onto my neck, and my left ear went quiet, a busted eardrum, I guess. I aggressively threw my flashlight at the bitch, and it connected with what I assume was her eye. I couldn't tell for sure because I didn't have a flashlight, and yes, I forgot to use the gun. It was new, and the current life or death situation, I forgot that I had it. Well, luckily the girl wasn't one of the tough ones, and I felt the grip on my neck loosen, and her scream stopped, and no sooner had I taken my first breath when she bent over backwards, possession style, and started sprinting into the woods in reverse. When I finally caught my breath, I slowly walked up to my campsite, and I went to sleep in the tent. They may be asking why I didn't go home after that, but it felt like a 20-minute hike. My flashlight was broken, so I had to wait till morning. I slept pretty good, though. No noises woke me up. I woke up the next morning expecting my ear to be killing me, but miraculously it was completely back to normal. I later figured out that it was the lady in the tree who fixed my ear, but that's a story for another time. This morning I just packed up everything and I headed back home. The only thing that got messed up was my flashlight, so I wasn't even that disappointed in the trip. I didn't camp out there anymore because no matter how weirdly wired I am, that girl really did freak me out a good bit. And I'm sure she's still out there. And what you'll notice so far is that these entities aren't really very effective killers, but that didn't go for everything out here. I understand that skinwalkers are a common topic in the horror scene at the moment, and from what I can tell, I think that's the creature I'm dealing with, but I could be wrong, because if this is a skinwalker, it's advanced to another level. Not only does it imitate voice, it imitates appearance. It really wants me dead or gone. So I like to call it Skinny. I think I pissed him off, though. And when I say his name, I say it loud because, especially at night, I know he's listening. I've lived here for 3 years now, and he's been harassing me for about a year, and he's good. One of the smartest things to come after me so far, the only one that can seem to almost get in my head. He tries to lure me out, not by pretending to be someone in trouble like the other imitators that I've dealt with before. He's aware that that stuff doesn't work on me anymore. No, he tries to piss me off. He wants me to try to kill him. Problem is, we both know I probably can't. One time he did get me, though. I was watching a documentary about veteran suicide. I mean, it's a terrible topic. I'm a supporter of the armed forces. I think it's terrible our government doesn't take better care of its vets that risk everything overseas so we don't have to. And they're doing a slideshow of men who had unfortunately lost the struggle with their own demons. And I had to look away for a second because this one guy that appeared on the screen looked too young and happy to have gone to this dark of a place. He was mixed race from what I could tell, athletic looking, had a big dimple smile on his face. When I looked away, I'm suddenly staring at the same kid outside my window. Same smile, same build, same uniform. One difference. Across his forehead was the word failure. I instantly knew it was Skinny. He wasn't trying to imitate this kid, he was insulting him, and he finally struck a nerve. I had seen him imitate so many other people and try so many other tactics, but this was the one that finally broke me. I was ending this creep. I exploded out of my chair, bolted from my bedroom, grabbed my .45, and proceeded to walk towards the same window the young soldier was still staring through. I got within 5 feet and saw that the word has changed. It spelled out, I deserved it. And after reading this, I didn't hesitate to raise my gun and fire 2 shots. But I think he ducked them. Bastard's fast. I stormed outside to try to find him, but he wasn't anywhere to be seen. That's when I hear, "Gotcha," whispered into my ear, and I was flung across the wall of my house. The gun flew out of my hand in the process, broke 2 ribs, and dislocated my right shoulder. I was a dead man, and he knew it. Ever since the incident that led me to buy a house by myself out in the middle of the woods, I don't think I've ever felt fear again. Something's wrong with my head. I did feel defeat, and I fell for his trap, and now he's gonna kill me, and these thoughts passed through my brain. I passed out from the pain and the concussion, probably, and then for some reason, one that I don't understand, I woke up. It was bright outside, and I was covered in blood and in more pain than I'd ever been in my entire life, but I was alive. Why was I alive? I struggled to stand up with my right arm hanging loosely at my side, and I soon noticed the words carved into the outside wall of my house. Next time. Ever since I got back from the hospital, I told the doctors I fell off a roof. I've been trying to find ways to deal with or kill a skinwalker. Now there is a way, or if he's even a skinwalker, he beat me. I'm usually pretty lighthearted with most of these experiences, no matter how intense they are, but I just can't with this one, because if I lose to Skinny again, I guess I'll be signing off for good. Be careful out there. Don't be fooled like me. There isn't always a next time. And hey, I'm not dead yet, so maybe there will be a next time. I plan on telling more of my experiences in the future, so keep your eyes peeled for them. Until next time, this is Cole, signing off. My Property Isn't Normal, Part 2, by Murderbird17. Find more from Murderbird, check the links in the description down below. I'm happy to see that my experience from Part 1 got some attention. Wasn't expecting this stuff to actually get any traction. See, I'm mainly here to vent and have a place to catalog the stuff that's been happening around my house. People also seem to enjoy the part where the naked dude attacked me, then cartwheeled into the woods crying like a baby when I stabbed him. I'm not sure if he was human. Now I feel obligated to tell more of my experiences. Also, feel free to leave any questions that you have, and I'll try to answer them in the next post. That being said, if you haven't heard Part 1, I suggest you go back and give it a listen. I'm going to tell the following experiences as if you've already heard the other experiences. This place is not normal, after all. and it does take some getting used to. Well, now the intro's out of the way, I think we can start with Camo, and Camo's a fucking nuisance. The first time that I came into contact with him was during the first white-tailed deer season that I had on my property. Now, I'm a hunter, but the program that is, quote, helping me after the incident said I wasn't allowed to have guns because the noise draws too much attention. It's bullshit. I live in the middle of nowhere, and there isn't anybody else for miles, unless you count the Chosen, but I'm pretty sure the program is worried about them. Luckily, the lady in the tree hooked me up with this .45 caliber I now have in my possession, but I didn't have it upon first meeting Camo, unfortunately. Anyway, back to the story. I first saw him when I was walking towards a ladder stand that I had set up in a tree to watch deer, since I couldn't kill them. And yeah, I could have a bow, but I'm shit with a bow. I'd risk just hurting the animal. I don't like the idea of an animal that's suffering because I couldn't make a shot that would kill it instantly. And now as I approach my stand, I notice a figure already sitting in it. It's about the size of a regular human. He was dressed in full camouflage. Pants, jacket, boots, hat, face mask, and backpack. He actually seemed like a regular person, which I hadn't seen any of those in the woods for the entirety of the 4 months that I'd been living there. The things that live on this property are generally more extreme, but no matter how relieved I was to see a proper human for once, he was deep in my property and hunting in my stand. I had to get him to leave. I reluctantly shouted over to him, "Hey, you ain't supposed to be here. Time to go, dude." I was about 75 yards away, and to his left, but I yelled plenty loud for him to be able to hear me clearly. He didn't flinch. He just stays facing straight forward like a statue. What a prick. Look, try to be creepy all you want, but ignoring someone like that is just rude. I know he hears me. I have reason to believe that he's trying to freak me out because I made him break character before. So, after I yell and he ignores me, I start getting impatient. I yell the same thing at him again, a little louder, and still ended up with the same response. What a dick. So now I'm livid because he's making me ruin all my chances for seeing deer this afternoon by making me yell at him. So, naturally, I start a brisk stroll over to tell him off to his face, or maybe kick his ass. And I already noticed that he didn't have a rifle, so I just assumed that he was watching like I was planning to do. Of course, he could have had a concealed handgun, but I'm a dumbass, so I didn't consider that. Then I hear the crunch of something under my foot, and the sudden sound of rope sliding across the surface at high speed. I froze for a fraction of a second, and before I could squeak out an "oh shit," I'm hanging upside down from my ankle. There was a loop around my leg that held me suspended 7 feet off the ground like a damn cartoon. I was like a fucking Looney Tunes character. I couldn't help but roll my eyes. I immediately knew it was Camo, and when I look up, or down, shit, I was upside down, so I don't really know where I had to look, but I saw him slowly climbing down the ladder, like, really slowly. What a dramatic guy. If he wasn't so obsessed with appearances, he probably could have killed me. That's what I think he wanted to do anyway. There was a machete on his hip that I could see now, and the blade was chipped in all the different ways to make it look like it was serrated. Wouldn't have been a very useful tool unless you wanted to use it to inflict pain. I think the biggest flaw with Camo's trap, though, was that he didn't account for the single fact that 99% of people who live alone in the woods learn to carry a large knife at all times. And that's a necessary thing if you want to stay alive. I wish I could tell you that I did a flip after I cut myself down and landed on my feet like some sort of badass, but I didn't. I landed on the back of my neck, and my vision went dark for about 15 seconds, which I guess was enough time for Tweedle Dumbass to finally get to the bottom of his ladder, and as I stood up, I saw that he was standing completely still at the base of the stand, still 50 yards away from me, staring at me. I could hear his thoughts from here. Damn, why did I get out? Damn, why did he get out? Shit, shit, shit. Then he turned, and he bolted. This guy was booking. I lost sight of him less than 30 seconds into my chase, and I had to give up. I needed to jog more. And what's more, by the time I got back to the ladder stand, it was already getting dark. I didn't even get to watch my deer. I've seen Camo on multiple other occasions as well, but I figured him out. See, He got me the first time, but his traps really aren't that sneaky. They're elaborate, but not sneaky. He always appears in an area that I plan on hunting in. I don't know how he knows where I'm going to be, but I stopped questioning stuff on this land a long time ago, and I already noticed him long before I get to that location. Again, I have no idea how he plans his shit out. And secondly, there's always a trap set somewhere directly between where I first spot him and his actual location. If I had to draw a line from him to where I see him from, the trap will always be on that line. Also, another important thing to realize is that none of his traps are fatal. They're all meant to keep me from escaping, not kill me. They do hurt, though. One time I almost stepped on a bear trap that he had set out, and for sure that would have broken my leg had it gotten me. This non-fatal part was his downfall. I figured out that he didn't want me to die in a trap. He probably wanted to do the deed himself, or maybe do something else, but he really didn't want me dead in a trap. So all I had to do to get him riled up was die in a trap, right? After the lady in the tree hooked me up with a pistol over a year and a half ago, one of the first problems I wanted to solve with it was the creator of the various nets, ankle snares, and holes that attempted to contain me every time before. And I knew exactly how I was going to do it. One of Camo's recurring traps was just a large, 11-foot deep hole covered by a large amount of suspiciously patterned sticks and leaves that could literally have been seen 100 yards away. I just had to wait until he used this trap again. And after a swinging log that I think was supposed to knock me out, another net that was meant to land on top of me, I might add that it was made of wire so that I couldn't cut through it, but it also had a glare from the sunlight that made it impossible not to see. I finally came across the trap that I was looking for. 4 weeks after I got the gun, I find myself walking towards an 11-foot hole, trying to pretend I don't see it. And suddenly, I start falling. I was ready for the fall, and I let out a loud yell as I traveled downward. And as I hit the ground, I stayed as quiet as possible, which was hard considering the broken toe and dislocated knee I had just received. Fuck Camo for making me do this. Well, I army crawled over to the other side of the hole. I laid my head against the side to make it look like I had broken my neck. Then I waited. It took 15 minutes for that little prick to dramatically make his way over to me, but I heard him walk up to the edge of the hole. I obviously had to close my eyes to appear dead because I couldn't run the risk of blinking, but I almost smiled when I heard Camo muttering to himself, "Oh shit, no, they are going to be so fucking pissed." I took advantage of this moment and quickly opened my eyes and whipped out the pistol, firing 3 shots at him as quickly as I could. I missed all but one. The bullet that met its mark put a hole in Camo's shoulder, and he let out a garbled scream of nonsense and gibberish, something along the lines of, "You piece of fucking, you can't believe that ass fucking you shit!" He did end up running away. But as he ran, I heard him say, "Fuck this dude, shit, I'm fucking done!" I was laughing my ass off. Till I realized that I was severely injured and I had to climb out of this hole. Good thing it was daytime though, or I might not have noticed the black rope that Camo had lowered into the hole while he was cursing himself for killing me. I somehow managed to pop my knee back in joint, based on shit that I had seen earlier in life, and climbed out and limped my way back to the house. And that was a good day. Broken toes are fucking expensive to get treated though, and the best part is that I haven't seen Camo since that day. It actually worked. Wish I could pull something like that off with Skinny. Another thing I guess I need to explain to all of you readers is the lady in the tree. I've mentioned her a few times now, and at least some of you are probably wondering about her. Really, I don't honestly know much about her myself, but she's hands down the best thing on this property. My first experience with her was when she healed a broken eardrum that I had suffered when meeting what I assume was that banshee down to the creek. It was busted when she screeched real loud, and when I went to sleep, I woke up perfectly fine the next day. I almost thought that it was all a dream until I saw the blood still on my pillow and the broken flashlight that I'd used in personal defense. Well, I guess this was the first time that she affected me directly, but not the first time that she'd helped me out. The true first time I didn't realize was her until, actually last night. It was the gun. A gun that I talked about purchasing at one point wasn't really purchased. I just wasn't willing to admit that I looted it off an old corpse that I found in an abandoned log cabin in the back of the property. This is an example of how sneaky she is. See, I only started to wonder if it was her doing while I was recording the first set of these stories. And I started thinking about how good a shape this gun was in. Of course, it was a little dirty when I found it, but it was also in perfect operating condition. And I figured the skeleton that was clutching it probably didn't need it anymore. But hell, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if it came to life each night. Either way, I left the cabin with a new sidearm and 2 boxes of ammunition. I didn't really think about it much because finding a gun on a body is pretty mild considering the events that go down here on a week-to-week basis, but yesterday I started questioning the real origins of this gun. It was so well maintained. New feeling when I got it, but the skeleton looked like it had been there forever. Not to mention the fact that the gun was unloaded and the boxes of ammo were unopened. But the skeleton looked like it had died holding the gun, like he was intending to use it. Didn't add up. So I headed back to the cabin and I found my answer. Everything was the same. Same as when I got there. As it had been over a year ago. I mean, nothing had changed, especially not the body. The exact same as before. I was nervous at first, not because the body scared me, but because the joke about the skeleton coming back to life from earlier wasn't really that far-fetched in this place. I'd never seen an undead skeleton, but I've seen other forms of undead. Maybe I'll tell you all about those experiences some other time. Nervous or not, though, I had to confirm my suspicions. I approached the body and I started examining the clothes. Just like I expected, the flannel shirt and brown jacket had no tags. Not like they had been ripped out, but like they were never there to begin with. Now there was only one more thing to check. I took my knife and I scraped the blade down the skeleton's exposed arm bone. And sure enough, a shaving fell off of it. It was wood. The entire skeleton was made of wood and painted a light brown amongst other discolorations to look like the real deal. The lady in the tree is very talented when it comes to wood, but she could do so much more. I've only seen her in person 2 times. Once when I caught a glimpse of her smiling as she walked into an opening into a tree, only to close the opening with a door that fit so perfectly I couldn't see the edges when I walked up to it. It just looked like a normal tree. And a second time, 2 days after I encountered the screeching banshee in the creek, I saw her out the window of my front door, smiling in. She winked at me and ducked out of view. I ran to the door to try to see her fully, but by the time I swung the door open, she was gone in the night. Nowhere to be seen, which is really annoying. I would almost consider us friends by now. She still wouldn't show herself to me fully. Now, when I saw her for the second time, I didn't know what or who she was. But when I looked at the ground and feet, I noticed a small sheet of what looked like to be homemade paper. And on it was a short message that read, "I wish to congratulate you on killing the Keelet. He was bringing an evil over the land that was distressing the forest. I don't know how you actually ended him, but I am happy all the same. I have seen you roaming, and I am certain you have seen me. We work towards the same goal, cleansing this land. My vows as a medicine woman keep me from directly interfering with the creatures of this land, but I wish you luck on your mission and will support you from the shadows as best I can. I hope your ears feel better." So I think the Keelet she was talking about me killing, I think was that rabid coyote that I had killed a few days before the creek incident. It was hairless and just staring at me through some trees. I think it was trying to intimidate me to leave its territory, so I shot it between the eyes and I left. My territory, bitch. But this was the first time I realized that I had someone on my side in this land, and that was a relief. She was actually really helpful. Once I got bit by a rattlesnake. When I got home, there was a bottle labeled anti-venom sitting on my kitchen table. Another time I got bit by one of those, the shadow children while I was hiking, and when I got home, there was a bottle of purple liquid in a glass. The same place on the table, and I honestly expected it to heal the wound or something, but it just made me really drunk. I guess she couldn't help me much that time. She's done other stuff too, but now I'm kind of worried about her. See, I haven't heard or experienced any help from her in 8 months. I'm worried something got to her. Or even worse. Or she's mad at me. Yeah, I mean, Skinny almost killed me 6 months ago, right? She didn't do shit. I've really grown to like her and even depend on her a bit, but she's just gone. I think I'm going to call it quits for this post, but hopefully I can stay alive long enough to do more. The hunt for Skinny continues, and if you don't know who that is, then shame on you for not hearing the first post before now. And if you do know who that is, I appreciate any suggestions you have for killing him. See you next time. This is Cole. Signing off. Tonight's story, My Property Isn't Normal, is written by Murderbird17. To find more from Murderbird17, check out his Reddit, linked in the description down below. Hey guys, I'm back. I know it's been a few days since my last post. One of the pails chewed through the wires of my generator, and since civilians aren't allowed out here by the organization, I had to wait 3 days for one of their electricians to get out here. The only reason I knew it was a pail that chewed through the main cable was because I watched it do it. I was hoping it would electrocute itself, but I forgot the part where that's the only source of power for my house since the Chosen has stolen my backup. This is probably a good time to say that if you haven't heard the first 2 installments of this series, you should, because I highly doubt any of this will make any sense. They aren't long, and I'll make sure they're linked here at the bottom of the post. Back to the regularly scheduled program, I realized while I was stuck in the dark for the past 3 days, reading books, hiking out of pure boredom, that I hadn't told y'all about the pails yet. And they suck. But they're kind of funny once you figure them out. I've seen them on quite a few occasions on the property. The pails are white humanoids that crawl on the ground on all fours, usually dragging their belly and using the same motion that Spider-Man uses to climb the wall. They can move at about a jogging pace, and their faces are usually stuck in distorted expressions of pain or anger. And boy, are they stupid as all hell. Let me tell you about the first time I saw one. I had already been living here about 7 months, I think, so I was becoming familiar with the weird shit that calls this place home. I was out hiking some of the trails, kind of halfway looking for weird shit, halfway minding my own business, and suddenly I can hear what sounds like a baseball player sliding through the leaves of the forest, trying to reach home plate ahead of me. Only the sliding didn't stop. And it was coming straight towards me. I prepare myself by taking out my trusty Bear Grylls survival knife and entering what I could describe as an aggressive stance. Felt pretty badass, not gonna lie. And expecting some creature to come barreling out of the bushes in front of me, I was a little shocked to see a butt-naked man with super pale skin dragging itself from under the brush on its stomach. What is it with fucking naked dudes on my land, right? And I get one pretty woman at least. But anyway, after I got done being flabbergasted and became aware of my surroundings again, I became aware that the dude was almost on me and was reaching out for my leg. So I jumped on his back and it worked like a fucking charm. This little bastard didn't have human strength like some of the other things out here. So when I landed on its back, it couldn't do anything but sit there and flop its legs and arms around like a fish. At this point, I'm on the verge of tears. It hears me laughing and tries to turn its head and spit on me, which I mean, it can't do. And that made me actually start crying laughing, and I fell off this thing at this point, and the creature quickly turned around and locked its teeth onto the toe of my left boot. I like to wear steel-toed boots around the property because even though they are heavy, I know that in a scuffle, being able to kick with a boot and not having to worry about breaking a toe is nice. This is what led me to realize that even though the creature didn't have super strength, it did have a super bite force. Now, when it first latched onto my boot, I wasn't worried, and I started trying to shake the thing off without much urgency. I already knew that it wasn't a man by this point because it didn't possess an asshole or other genitalias. But I got a little worried when I noticed the end of my boot changing shape as the steel in the end started to bend. I then said out loud, "If you don't stop right now, I'm gonna stab your head, you little shit." It paused, as if debating on the decision, and then slowly started biting down again while its eyes looked up at me as if to try to call my bluff. I
wasn't bluffing. A few seconds later, the thing is frantically clawing its way back into the forest with my favorite Bear Grylls survival knife, TM, still in the back of its stupid fucking head. Nobody likes a thief. Got back home fine, but I had to replace my favorite knife and get a new pair of boots. So, it's a pretty shitty hike. It was the next time I saw one, was when I figured out their biggest fear, and it's so stupid. I was down in my creek playing with a new toy that I had gotten in town earlier that week. It was this net that was designed to catch little minnows, and shit, it was a blast. I didn't really have any use for minnows or whatever other little fish that I was catching because I can't go into the only pond on the property that has big fish in it since I made that deal with the crocodile man. So I'm just catching them. I'm letting them go. And I'm suddenly greeted by the somewhat familiar sound of a grown man sliding across the ground on their belly. Now, it had been almost 2 months since the last incident that I had with a pail, but I immediately recognized the sound. This was the dunce that had stolen my knife. And I really valued that Bear Grylls knife, one that could be purchased at your local Walmart. I mean, it's a really good product. Unfortunately, the pail that emerged this time wasn't the same one. It had a different face and was more of a light pink than the original white that was on the first pail. It was still the same type of creature though. This time things went down differently. As it tore into the clearing that I was in about 30 feet from me, it froze, with its eyes wide. As it had tore through the brush, I was almost facing its direction, holding the net spread out to my side in the same way a bullfighter holds a red cape. I was preparing to throw the net into the creek. Pail's eyes were switching between looking at the net and looking at me. So I looked at the net and back at him. Then it clicked. No way, I giggled to myself as I started to catch on to what was happening. I took advantage of my suspicions and started running and flaring the net around at the pail, and it freaked the fuck out. It actually rolled over trying to turn too fast as it spun around and took off into the woods. I then started wheeze laughing as I fell onto the ground with tears running down my face. This fucking thing can bite through steel, but it's terrified of a nylon net. I know that might not be a funny story to some because I have a twisted sense of humor, but it made my week. Long story short, I keep the little net in my hiking bag every time I go out now, and every pail I come across is utterly mind-fucked at the sight of it. It's good times, man. I wish all the things around here were that easy to deal with, you know? On another note, I got an email from an organization asking me about the keelet that the lady in the tree claimed that I killed in the last post. I wanted to know if I had disposed of the body, and if they could come and retrieve the remains from the woods if I had, just left it. Then they said something that caught me off guard. When I said something about having to check with the program, the one that put me out here, they responded with, "We are the parent organization of that program," and they proceeded to give me my own address, as well as details about my former life, that only the program should have known about. And in all seriousness, I have a dark past, and I haven't always been a great man. I'm done with that shit, and it pissed me off. That they would ever bring it up. I responded with a simple fine, but don't bring that shit up again. And I blocked the emailer. No one's shown up yet, but I guess we'll see what happens, right? On a good note, I haven't seen Skinny in a couple of weeks, so that's nice. And, yeah. I'll see y'all next time, and feel free to leave your questions in the comments, and if you have any ideas what these pails actually are, or what a keelet is, then please tell me. If any of you are good with research stuff, I'd appreciate it. I'll talk to y'all again soon. Well, I'm back, guys. Welcome to part 4 of this, documentary? Catalog? Diary? I honestly don't know what this is anymore because I thought that I would only be using this platform to tell stories of stuff that happened to me in the past on this property. Now I'm being forced to bring the journal to the present. You see, those people from the organization did come to see about the Keyleth. And now there's a guy named Mark living in my house, sleeping on my couch. Well, not really sleeping, more unconscious. But we'll get to that part later. After a few days of this organization that wouldn't tell me their name, not showing up, I figured it was just a troll who managed to figure out my email account and hack into my personal life. But alas, on the third day, he rose. Not really, no, but 4 guys did end up knocking on my front door. They were all dressed pretty normally except for the matching gray combat boots that told me that these were men of action, which also means they're going to try their hardest to push me around and play badass. My suspicions were confirmed when the guy in the lead introduced himself as Mark and immediately asked me why I claimed to have actually killed a Keyleth. What a prick, right? Look, I still don't know what the fuck a Keyleth is, and I don't claim to have killed one. The lady in the tree said I killed one. I only assume that she's talking about the hairless coyote that I killed down near the creek. At the mention of the lady in the tree, they all looked at each other with an expression of, this dude is a waste of time. Well, the feeling was mutual. I was getting a little impatient by now, so I chimed in with a, if you guys are done being superior to me, can I take you to where I killed the coyote? The one behind Mark, whose name I don't remember, said, sure, let's get this over with. So 30 minutes later, we're standing in front of where I killed the thing that I now know wasn't a coyote. Look, I know I may not have clarified it yet, but I killed this thing well over a year ago. Shit, maybe 2 years. And the only reason that the organization knew that I had killed it was because of the post that I made earlier this week. A lot of decomposing and feeding can happen to a body in the woods over that long of a time. On top of that, I hadn't been to this part of the property in a very long time because there aren't any trails or interesting locations here, but I was taken aback when I saw what happened to the body over the course of the 2 years that it had been out there. Absolutely nothing. The body looked like I had shot it yesterday. Only evidence that it was older was the fact that all the blood had all seeped out of the head wound and long since dried up. But the skin, the face, the fur on its paws, they were completely preserved. It only had fur on its paws, which was odd. When we got to the body, the snickering crew of 4 went dead silent. Now, you said you killed this around 2 years ago, didn't you? Said Mark. Yeah, but I hadn't been down here since. Why is the thing still preserved like that? What the hell's happening? One of the guys who hadn't said a word up until this point chimed in. Keyleths are so unusual, dark that nothing usually in nature will have anything to do with an authentic one. This includes bacteria, fungi, scavenger animals. Then he muttered something about a level 107 beast. Mark looked at me with a serious face and said, so this Keyleth story's true. Does that mean all the shit you said in those posts about this place were true? Before I could answer with a, what do you think, asshole, a low raspy laughter started to surround us and begin closing in. It was coming from all directions. We looked up from the body to see at least 50 hooded figures surrounding us, laughing maniacally. All 4 of the military men pulled their concealed pistols and took aim, but before they could fire a shot, I called out over the laughter, Hector, I told you next time you and your little chosen crew sneak up on me, I'm kicking your ass again. Everybody paused. The chosen, the 4 organized men, and the pale that had just crested a hill 30 yards behind one of the cult members. A few seconds later, one of the hooded figures took off his hood and revealed a chubby, jolly-looking face with rosy cheeks and wire-rimmed prescription glasses. Aw, man, we didn't know they were with you, Cole. We thought these were trespassers. We're sorry, Hector said with a downcast gaze. Why would you even need them to begin with? I retorted. Hector hesitated for a moment and said, our God wants a real sacrifice. Those white, crawly humanoid things just aren't doing it for him anymore. At this point, the pale that I could see frozen on top of the hill turned and bolted back in the woods. Hector then proceeded to call to the other hooded figures,
Here with Cole, we can't have him. There was a collective sigh as the Chosen looked at the ground and walked away into the woods. I didn't notice until they were all gone that the 4 organization men hadn't lowered their weapons the entire time. Are you pussies ready to head back to the house? It's dark in 45 minutes. If those guys got you on edge, you won't last long at night. Mark shot me a look that explained in detail how much he hated me, without the need for words, while his 3 partners put their thick rubber gloves on and put the keelet into a sort of body bag. As we were walking back towards my house, with the 3 stooges carrying the corpse of the demon dog, Mark starts questioning me.
What was that group back there?
Some cult, I guess. They told me they worship, Cunt Hulu or something. He seemed kind of taken aback for a second, then asked,
Why did they seem wary of you, but not flinch when we had guns trained on them?
Simple. They don't fear death. But they do crack when exposed to severe pain for long enough. Again, Mark seemed surprised by my answer. He started to strike me as simple-minded.
So, how did you inflict this pain on him?
Look, I don't want to answer any more questions. I really don't. And I really didn't. This was the kind of shit that I don't like to dwell on. That was a different life. I don't like when it seeps back into the present. Sure, it's nice to have the local murder cult leave you alone, but I used methods that I regret to get that luxury. The last thing Mark said to me on our hike back to the house was, Look, dude, my mind is telling me that you're batshit crazy. My instincts are telling me that you're a threat. Which one are you? I looked him dead in the eyes and mumbled, That's up to you. And let me tell you, that look on his face was priceless. I love mind games. A few minutes later, we reached the house, and all 4 of the goons walked up to the big black van that they arrived in. They started loading up the body as I reached my doorknob to get inside. I hear Mark start raising his voice while talking on his phone. What? This guy isn't right in the head. I know there's stuff here, but why? Look, let me get a team down. Okay, yeah, he does have experience, but... Wait, what did you say? He then stared at me with a mixture of confusion and disbelief. I told him where I came from. I could tell by the way he looked at me. He hung up the phone without any more arguing and began to walk over to me. As he reaches me, he says, My higher-ups have told me I need to stay with you for a while and keep an eye on the activity around here. I responded with, You can't be serious.
Wish I wasn't. They also wanted me to remind you that you didn't pay for this house or this property.
And with that, I opened the door with my best butler impression and gestured for him to enter my home. As he walked through the door and dropped what I assumed to be his emergency bug-out bag on the floor, he froze. Oh, can I just say one thing real quick? Fuck Skinny. I didn't hear how heavily he was breathing at first because the van was making noise as it was driving away, but as those sounds faded, I realized that Mark was breathing like he had just sprinted a marathon. His eyes were trained on the window with his body completely rigid, with his hand on his hip, ready to draw his gun. I followed his gaze to the window where I had confronted Skinny many times before, and sure enough, there he was. Only this time, he wasn't somebody I recognized. This time, he was a fairly attractive, tall, athletic, blonde woman. She was smiling, holding a heart-shaped balloon. Upon closer inspection, I could tell the balloon read, "It's a girl." I rushed in front of Mark to try to snap him out of whatever trance he was in, but I soon realized that tears were welling up in his eyes. By this, I gathered that this woman was no longer with us. And the girl most likely wasn't either. Fuck you, Skinny. I calmly started explaining what Skinny was to Mark, but soon after I started, he stopped me. I read the stories, Cole. I know that you've talked about this thing before. I'm trained to handle these kinds of things, so don't worry about me because I'm gonna fucking kill it!
With that, he made a mad dash to the back door in an effort to get outside and confront Skinny. I managed to block him and push him to the ground, saying, "He won't come inside, so just keep your shit together and we live." Mark wasn't in a listening mood, though. He jumped back to his feet and straight into a fighting stance. Oh, great. After a second, he threw a fast left hook straight for my face. It wasn't fast enough. I ducked under it, and I swung and connected my elbow to the side of his chin. He went out like a light. And by the time the scuffle was over, Skinny was gone. They put Mark on the couch, and now I'm typing this. Thinking about going through his computer before he wakes up. Anyway, that's all for today. Please, if anyone knows what a keyleth is, let me know. What did I kill? And what did Mark mean by he was trained to deal with this kind of stuff? What is he? A monster hunter or something? I'll try to get some answers before my next post. See y'all soon. I usually try to do some kind of intro to these posts, but today, I'm too excited to try to do that. If you haven't read my previous posts, you should though. They're quite a bit more action-packed and explain all the events that lead up to where I am now. If you haven't read them, you won't have any idea what I'm talking about. Y'all remember the last post where I joked about Mark being some kind of monster hunter or something? Well, I went through his computer, and I'll be damned if he isn't. He's got files on files of even more files of all these different tangibles, which I think means monsters. I even managed to find a file on the keyleth. I wonder they didn't believe I'd killed one. Apparently a keyleth is a creature in Native American mythology that's described as a furless dog-like thing. It does have fur on its paws, though, which supposedly makes it impossible to hear or track in the wild. Pretty tame so far, right? Don't worry, it gets better. Apparently, looking at them is supposed to immediately fry your brain and disorient you, making you easy to kill for the creature, but that didn't happen to me. Only reason I can think of for the mind cooker effect not happening to me is because I didn't process things the same anymore. Not after the events that led me to live out here. Or maybe it wasn't even a keyleth. I mean, there was a few more details I didn't get to read because before I could finish, I felt cold steel on my neck. Mark had woken up and was now pressing a knife to my throat.
What do you think you're doing with my computer?
The fuck does it look like? I'm trying to figure out who the man that was passed out on my couch is. Mark thought for a second, still not moving the knife from my neck, then asked,
Why? No, how did you knock me out? I know you have a dodgy history, but CQC fighting is my specialty. But all I can remember is going to hit you, and then it went dark.
Careful not to move and slit my throat, I said, You got desperate? I went for a one-hit knockout. But frankly, your left hook is slow to hit your opponent when you clearly telegraphed exactly what you were planning on doing with your hips. I dropped under the blow and threw an elbow to the bottom of your jaw. The knife loosened a little.
You seem to know your stuff. Why pretend to be a dumbass then?
Excuse me? First of all, I'm not pretending to be anything. Second of all, fuck you. The knife fell away completely now. I took the opportunity to turn and start asking my own questions. So, you are an actual fucking monster hunter, huh? He paused for a moment before replying.
Yeah, I guess I am.
So why is an organization that employs monster hunters also the owner of the organization that is helping me escape my past? Mark winced this time. Not a good sign.
Cole, the organization that's claiming to help you escape your past probably doesn't exist. My organization has many false companies that it uses to gather intelligence and run experiments. I have reason to believe they put you out here knowing about your past in an effort to see if anyone could survive, in an area that's known for having extremely high levels of tangible activity. They also knew that if you were to die, they wouldn't have to worry about people looking for you. However, I also think that you have probably far surpassed their expectations. The higher-ups haven't actually told me so, but they can't possibly expect anyone to kill a keyleth on their own, or have fun with a creature like a fleshgate.
Holy shit. Now that was a lot to take in. I took a deep breath, then cautiously asked, What the fuck is a fleshgate? Mark put both of his hands on his head and let out an, "Ugh, serious dude.
Does anything even faze you? Flesh gates are those things that you call pails. They're only level 4s, but still too much for most people to handle, let alone fuck with on any regular basis, like you claim to do.
There goes that fucking level thing again. I had seen various levels ranging from 2s and 3s all the way up to hundreds on the reports that I read while browsing Mark's computer, but I had no clue what they meant. So what's all this level shit about? All the monsters on your computer have one, but I don't know what that means. Mark shot me an angry look. Guess he was still mad that I had gone through his shit. We based beast strengths on how many unarmed adult men we predict it could take down before being overwhelmed. 1 man equals 1 level. Just then, I remembered that the level beside the Keyleth was 107. Wait, hold up. So you're telling me that the Keyleth I killed was rated at... Before I could finish, he interrupted me. 107. No way. I know about the mind-baking stuff, but that thing was no larger than a golden retriever. No way in hell it could kill 107 people. Your people predicted that dog thing could kill 107 people. No, dumbass. They predicted it could kill 106, then lose at the 107th. I had trouble believing him. Look, Mark, I read about how they can cook your brain whenever you look at them, but I stared at the thing in the eyes. It had no effect on me at all. Why? This puzzled him. I don't really know. That's why I didn't believe it when I first heard that some dude claimed to have shot a Keyleth on Reddit. What really confused me is why the higher-ups decided it was worth getting a team to go investigate. Now I know that they were fully aware of the caliber of shit that happens here. Speaking of caliber, can I see the gun that you used on the Keyleth? Ah, damn it. I knew this was going to happen as soon as I mentioned the gun in my post. The organization had a no-gun rule for me, which is why it was a pretty big deal that the lady in the tree had helped me get my hands on one. But now, they knew. They weren't going to let me keep it. Now fuck off, dude. I'm keeping the gun whether your bosses want me to or not. To my surprise, Mark looked genuinely confused by my sudden response. I don't want to take your fucking gun, I just want to see it. A normal pistol shouldn't be able to kill a Keyleth with one shot, no matter how perfect the aim is. I need to see what makes that gun so different and bring the bullets too. They're what I'm really interested in. He really didn't know about the rule I had been given about no guns. Weird. I reluctantly went into my room and retrieved my trusty .45 caliber Thunder Stick and the only box of ammo I had left. I started off with 2 large boxes of bullets, but over time my supply was whittled down to just half a box. As soon as I dropped the weapon and ammo onto the coffee table, Mark immediately started inspecting one of my bullets. Knew it. Do you even know what these are, Cole? 45 caliber? I responded somewhat slowly. Without looking away from the bullet, Mark began to explain. These are Nat rounds, specially designed to deal with an unholy creature of chaos. They're created when the metals used to make the bullets are blessed by a Native American shaman and medicine men. You can tell what they are by the slight warmth they give off and the small vibrations you can feel when you squeeze them between your fingers. However, these are the most active rounds I've ever come in contact with. They're much warmer, vibrate much more than any rounds that I'm used to. If the lady in the tree gave you these, she's likely more powerful than you realize. Mark looked up, maybe expected some type of awe at this revelation. Well, that's neat, I responded, somewhat dumbfounded. I guess it was cool to have enchanted bullets and all, but it didn't change much in the grand scheme of things. Kind of like how your car speedometer goes up to 120 miles per hour. Most people wouldn't even drive that fast, but it's cool to know that when the time comes, you might be able to. Then again, I guess the magic bullets came in handy when I shot the Keyleth, as well as a few other things. So maybe I should be more grateful. Before Mark could scold me again for the lack of reaction,